Welcome everyone to another exciting Jet Global Success Series webinar. My name is Brian Robinson. I'm the Professional Services Manager here at Jet Global, which is now an Insight software company here out of lovely Portland, Oregon. If this is your first time attending one of our success series, I say welcome to you. And if you've attended one before, thank you for coming back again this month. As with all of our success series, everyone here is on mute by default. But if you have any questions as we go along, please type them into the chat box. We always try and keep these success series short and bite-sized, so we tend to save all of our questions that come in and dive into them as an appended recording to this series. Now, speaking of recording, this session is being recorded and will be made available in just a few days on our YouTube channel, on our blog posts, and all those fantastic places that you've seen all these before. So, for those of you that are attending for your first time, you might be asking why we host these various webinars each month. Well, the purpose is really just to help you and all the users out there become successful with our entire suite of products. We just want to make sure that you know of all the great features and functionality available to you within all of our Jet Global products. So on the second Thursday of every month, we host a 30-minute session on some topic. We try and keep them, again, as short as possible within 30 minutes because we know you're busy, but we want to make sure it's long enough to demonstrate one of three things: how Jet can save you time, how you can do your job better using Jet, or just keep you informed on what Jet has to offer. Now that you've registered for this session, you should be able to see all of the upcoming sessions for this year on your calendar from when you accepted this invite. If not, I just recommend you can take today's session on your Outlook calendar or whatever calendar you use and turn it into a recurring event on your calendar because we use the same link for each session. So I should have started off by making sure that everyone can hear me because I've been talking now for about 3 minutes. Just type in a question or a chat or anything to let me know that you can hear me. That would be fantastic. Perfect. Thank you, Heather. First one to chime in. And apparently I'm all goof. Perfect. All right. So let's talk about our upcoming session. Next month, we're going to be back here. I'm going to be back here again talking about best practices for building faster reports. So again, this will be on Thursday, August 8th, and this is a very common topic that we get requests on our services team and our support team. This report's not working as fast as I'd like it to run. Can I make this better? What can I do? And so we'll jump into some of those common pitfalls that we see people doing when they're jumping into and building reports. Hopefully we can get you a little bit more efficient about the way your reports are running and what you want to avoid and what you should be doing. I think this is going to be a really fantastic topic. I do highly recommend every designer comes and checks that out because I think it's a very, very important topic. So who are we and why are we here? Well, we are here because for about 15,000 companies, about 200,000 different users around the globe, and I think we're close to 94 or 95 countries around the world, use Jet as a way to extract data from their databases and pull it directly into Excel without having to know any SQL or any other coding. And because we live in Excel, all those Excel users around the world can build a couple queries, pull that back, and have access to information that maybe they didn't have access before. Or we try and avoid the copy and paste. Let's pull this out of here or reach out to our IT team. So we want to give data control to everyone, not just the technical people in your company. So our goal is to make your data accessible to everyone, not just a select few. Okay? So this is a very extensive topic, and I'm hoping that I can get everything in here. We may have time for everything. We may not. I might have to record an appended session just to get that last section on there. But let's jump in and get right through this. We're going to talk about what Jet word integration is. Some of you are familiar with it, but less than half of the people attending right now said they were not familiar with it before this session. So we'll talk about what it is and why you might want to use it. We'll talk about an overall process flow of kind of what you're going to be looking at, so look at big picture. Then we'll talk about some just kind of nuances of name ranges and formatting, things that you want to keep in mind before you actually start building your reports and your templates and your Word documents. And finally, we'll round it out with some examples. In fact, what I'm going to do is it's kind of a financial report, but it's more of a company overview. And if we have time, we'll do an outstanding invoice report. We'll see how time rolls. So what is Jet's word integration? Well, it's a new tool within Jet Reports that was introduced, I believe, in 20.1 that allows all Jet users to take parts of different dynamic jet reports and insert that data directly into a Word document. So when the data in the report is updated, you simply click a button to generate a new document on the fly, and then you don't have to worry about copying and pasting data each time. I have to take this table and copy it over here. I need to take these values. We were over budget or under budget by this much. I need to type that in and modify it every single time. So now what you can do, instead of just providing a report, you can provide a Word document that actually frames a story, gives context to the numbers, as opposed to just, here's a bunch of numbers, take a look at it. So if you find yourself recreating the same documents over and over, using just new data, right? This tool can help alleviate some of the pain points of the copy and paste. So perhaps you create customer statements each month, or you have compliance filings, or maybe you need to compile a board of directors booklet each quarter, right? That booklet is going to be the same format, it's going to be the same content, but the data is going to change, and that's what we're after. How do we update that data without having to copy and paste? So the Word integration makes it really easy to create a template once, and then use Jet Reports to dynamically put in the supporting data for each of those documents. So as a general process, this is what we're going to go through. The first thing you need to do is actually create the Jet report. Maybe you've already got it created. Maybe you need to take an existing one and tweak it a little bit. We'll kind of see how I might tweak it a little bit to make it even more dynamic than what I start with. But you've got to start with a Jet report, because it's going to live, this Word document is actually going to live inside that Excel file. Right? The Word document actually is, the template is dynamically linked and built within Excel. So it's kind of a weird thing. It's like Word inside of Excel. So once you've got your report, then you're actually going to create the Word document. You're going to put in your little placeholders. This is going to go there. This is going to go there. And then finally, once you've got everything the way you want, you click generate, you save the document, and then you send it off to whoever needs it. Now you don't have to, you run a report, you click generate, boom, next quarter, there's your information. There's your booklet ready to go. So Jet uses name ranges to identify those little placeholders. Now it's important to understand name ranges. Some people use them, some people don't, but this is really the best way that Jet can identify certain pieces of an Excel document and then link that to the Word document. So you want to make sure that it's something really descriptive, right? In this case, I've selected cell C and D3, and I've said this is going to be called date range because, well, that represents a date range. So give it a good solid name. This is just my naming convention. I tend to capitalize every first word, but don't just do word 1, word 2, word 3. Right? That's not going to be very helpful. As you're going through these, note that the first character must be a letter, an underscore, or a backslash, and one of those three has to start with. I tend to start everything with letters anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But all the remaining letters can be numbers, spaces, periods, underscore, pretty much you name it. As long as it's not something too crazy, you should be able to use it in there. But there is one exception. You can't use spaces, which is why this says date range, all one word, as opposed to date space range. Okay, so no spaces in a name range, and you can't use anything that would look like a cell address, like A35 or R2D2, right? Those look like cell references. Go to R2D2, and that tells me where to go. Right. The other thing to keep in mind is that they're not case sensitive. So company all in caps, company lowercase, and company all willy-nilly. They're all treated exactly the same. So if you don't want to follow this convention where you start each word with a capital letter, you can make them all caps, you can make them all lowercase. It doesn't really matter what you want to do. Okay. So that's just a little bit about name ranges. We'll see that in action. And when we start using them, there's a couple different ways we can go about doing it. The last thing I always like to kind of address before we jump into actually creating the Word template in the document is understanding formatting, because you're dealing with formatting that exists in Excel, and then you're putting it into a Word document that might have its own independent formatting. So how do you reconcile the two of them? Well, this is what we've done. When it comes to text, Word will take whatever the font, the size, the cell shading, the color, etc., from the Excel source file. Okay? So if I needed something bold, I need to make sure I make it bold in Excel. If I want it italics, or if I want it 24 point, I need to make sure I make it that way in the Excel file, so when it pulls it over, Word's like, oh yes, this is the size it's supposed to be. So if I need multiple styles, what we'll see is I'm going to use the company name because I want to be able to have a header with the company name. I'm going to insert the company name into the document. I want those as 2 different styles and 2 different sizes. So I'll have those as separate styles and separate cells. Now, the other thing we can import are charts. Now, the style is retained from whatever it pulled from Excel. So colors and shading and format and layout, those are all retained from Excel. But the size of the chart is actually determined within the Word document. I can resize it to whatever size I want, and we'll see that as we go through here. So it's just something to keep in mind that these kind of formatting rules are in place. So let's jump right in. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and open up. We're just going to use one of our pre-built reports here. And we are going to use our company overview. And in here, we've got some profitability indicators. We've got our overview. We've got a P&L and a balance sheet. So here we've got a chart. So we're looking good. I like what we're seeing. I think this gives me a good start for what I want. And you'll notice that there's a bunch of name ranges already in this file. None of them are exactly what I want, so I'm going to create my own name ranges. I'd really like to have this profitability indicators in my report. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here and I'm going to say, well, I'm just going to call this demo profit indicators. I hit enter. That was all one word. So now what's nice is if I select anywhere else and I choose that demo profit indicator, jumps right to that spot. Again, I've identified that region of it. Now, one thing to note is there are some hidden rows in here. Right? The nice thing is if you hide a row from the Word integration, it will hide it in Word. If you want it to show in the report, I would have it to expand this out. If I don't want it to show, I simply hide it. So anything that's hidden will not be shown in the actual Word document. So this gives me a little bit of flexibility. Maybe sometimes I do want to show the explanation, sometimes I don't. In this case, I don't want to show that. Okay? So I've grabbed that range. I've got a chart over here. It's got a name, balance sheet, assets, whatever. And I'd like to grab, we'll grab this overview in just a sec. So I think that gets me everything we need to kind of get started. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Jet. And I'm going to configure my Word export. This is the first step. I need to configure that. I changed the name on me. It used to be create, but now it's generate. Okay. So this is going to open up my Word export. And I have the ability to add my ranges. This is where, these are all the things that I want to include in my Word document. I'll add my range and I can select from an existing one, well, the demo profit indicator, and you'll notice that it highlights the cell. It might be a little bit hard to see on your screen because it's a very light gray font, but it certainly is showing the correct section. So that's good. If I say, oh, you know what? I wanted this overview section. Well, have no fear. I can add a range and I can call this demo overview. I'm going to just create a name range while I'm in here and I'm going to select this range of cells. Oh, there it is. Fantastic. And so within here, I could modify that if I wanted to go down to 32. Or 33. I really want it to only go down to 31, so I'm going to leave it at that. And I can continue to add more and more ranges. But that's all I need for right now. I think I'm going to start with those two things. And I'm going to get a chart. Oh, here we go. So now when I've got my charts, it will automatically find all the charts in your report. Now this looks like a chart, but it's not. This is a true just Excel with some graphics and fun stuff like that. But my chart is really this balance sheet. And you'll notice that it calls chart 12. That's what I was, but it pulls the title balance sheet, assets, liabilities. So make sure you give your charts really good names. Otherwise, it's just going to say chart 1, chart 2, chart 3, chart 4, and you're not going to know the difference between each one. I can uncheck or check as I see fit. Right? If I have lots of charts, I might want to only select a few. But for me, you know, I don't necessarily know if I'm going to need it or not, but I'll go ahead and check it just in case. The next step, I've given my name range, I've chosen my charts that I want to use. Now I'm going to edit my template. This is where I'm going to create the Word document and where I'm going to create that overall template. Now when I do this, it's actually going to open up Word. Now one thing I have noticed that is if you already have a Word document open, you will not be able to see this jet ribbon. Right? So make sure you close down any other Word documents that you might have. You can certainly open them up after the fact, but in this initial pull, you want to make sure that Word is closed, and then it opens up a brand new one. I know I'm working in my actual Word document in the Excel file because I have access to this jet button. So I might come in and say, okay, well, what were our results from this year? Well, net income for period, we were under our target. So I might put in Jet Corp USA was under target for I wish I could spell target for the period. by, I didn't do the math. I'll do that later. And you know what? Here, you can just take a look at that. I'm going to insert a range. Well, there's my profitability indicator. And it just puts a little thing. It's not going to show you the full expanded region because this is just putting a placeholder. It will not actually expand that out until you have generated the Word document. So I can say, hey, cool, Jet Corp USA was under target for the period. They can look at that and they can see what they did. Here is the balance sheet. Cool. Or maybe I just put in balance sheet, right? Balance sheet. And I'll give this some formatting because I'm allowed to do those types of things. We'll give it a nice big header here. And under there, I'm going to insert that chart. Looks good. Okay. And the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put that company overview in there. So I'll put in the same thing, company overview, and let's insert that overview. So, looks good. Now here's my chart. Now in my actual Excel file, you'll remember that this is a kind of a nice square. It's pretty darn close. So just for the sake of this, I'm going to squish it down just to demonstrate that the size is dependent by what we do in here. It will change that. Now, once I have kind of my Word document ready to go, I could always copy and paste from other documents at this point. Paste in this and change in this and put in placeholders. All I have to do is close that up. That's it. It's now saved within my Word export here. The last thing I need to do is tell it where, when I generate this, should I output it and what should I call it? Well, let's just call this company overview, and I'm going to put in my success series folder. Once I hit save, that is not going to generate the file. This is only going to save that template in this Excel file. So if I were to close this Excel file and open it back up and came back into my Word, I would have everything that I did before. But if I open up a different Excel file and went to configure Word export, it would have no correlation to this document whatsoever. So the Word document and the Excel document are intertwined and joined at the hip. So you can't kind of separate them. Okay? So I configured it. Now I'm ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and generate that Word document. Give it a sec, it will go. And this should be pretty quick because it was a pretty minor document. I didn't really put a whole lot in there. And here we go. Document generated. I can open that file to take a look at it. And this is kind of this iterative process where I'm going to create something. I'm going to insert it in. I'm going to try and figure out how it looks and how it doesn't. And say, okay, Jet Corp was under target for the period. Yep, that's right. Ooh, look at, there's my balance sheet. I squished it down. It looks really terrible. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. But then I have also got this company overview. Ooh, it is, it kind of goes all the way over here. So maybe I need to figure out a way to reduce the size of this because you can see it's going off the page. Right? I don't have a whole lot of control about resizing that. So maybe I need to rethink about in Excel how I'm going to use that. So let's say, okay, this is okay, but it's not great. I forgot to put the company name up here. Maybe I want it in really big letters. If I run this for different companies, I should be able to say Jet Corp UK or Jet Corp USA. What if I run this and it's over target? Then I'm going to have to come in here and say, oh, well, we were over target for the period, and I'm going to have to do that each time. So let's figure out a way to make that a little bit more dynamic. I'm not going to save this. Okay. So let's come back in here. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new sheet over here, and this is where I just kind of like to keep my formatting. So I might put in Jet Corp USA, just normal size font. I might put in Jet Corp USA, and in this case, let's make it really large and in charge. We'll make it bold, and we're going to make it 36-point font. And you know what? I want a whole different one. I want Arial Black. So very distinct things. I'm going to call this demo company. Okay, I can't type. Name small. Demo company name large, bold, right? I'm giving those very distinct names. I can tell what those are. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use Excel to do a little bit of things. I'm going to say, well, if this is bigger than this, then we were over target. If not, it's going to be under target. So let's put that in there. If I look at my scorecard, if this value is bigger than this value, what does that mean? Well, that means I was over target. Otherwise, I'm under the target. Now I can reference this cell to say whether over or under. And you know what? I might even put inside by how much, right? I started typing that one. Ooh, I need to break out my calculator. Well, I'm going to put in an absolute value of this minus this value. And now I can say what we are over or under by. And I'm going to go ahead and put a little formatting on there. I need to put in my name ranges for this, demo over under. Perfect. And demo amount. And so I've given it all these new things, name ranges. Now I can go back in and generate or configure my Word document. Okay, so I need to add those new ranges. I'm going to add in demo amount. I'm going to add in demo company large bold, demo company name small, and the over or under. I'm going to go ahead and charts. Still, that's cool. I still want that chart. I know I need to resize it. Let's edit that template. Let's get rid of that overview, that big thing that was too big for the Word document. Let's resize our chart and let's add a couple things. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to get rid of this company overview because that's just not working the way I expected. I'm going to resize this a little bit better so we can see it's not going to be squished. And now I can come in here and say, okay, well, let's put in that big company name. Insert my company name large bold. Okay. And well, let's replace this with the company name small. Jet Corp USA was under target. Well, I'm going to replace that with my over under for the period. And I can say by, and I can insert that amount. So you can see how creative you can get with this. It will say Jet Corp USA was over or under by a certain amount for the period, and then put that profitability indicator in there. So this is how you can start kind of manipulating the file to make it really dynamic. And if I change the company name in the Excel file, it's going to change the company name here. So now I can save this document, make sure output's good. I'll go ahead and save my template and all my work and all that setup. And then I will export that. I'll generate that. I already have a file there, so it's going to ask me, should I overwrite it? Yep, just go ahead and overwrite it. The old one was bad anyways, so let's see what this new one looks like. And once we're done, we'll open that file. And we can see, oh, there's our big logo. Jet Corp USA was under target by 284,000. That looks good. Balance sheet is a little bit easier to read now. I probably would size it a little bit more to get the liabilities pushed over. But you can see this is a really quick, easy. And now when I need to, I can run this. Let's just run this for January. Let's see what happens. Instead of the entire year, there we go. Let's look at 01/31/18. I chose the start date as that, but it will rerun this report. Our numbers will change, right? It said 284, now it's under target by that. I really wanted to show January to show 01/01/18, 01/31/18, to really show that the under target will switch to over target by a certain amount. And now when I generate that Word document, right, ran my report, cool. Now when I generate that Word document, it will simply change all those values. How fantastic is that? I now don't have to copy and paste. I don't have to go in and change words here and there. I make it all dynamic and away I go. So I'll open that file. We'll see one last version of this was over target by that amount, new numbers, new balance sheet chart, and I can just save this as a PDF or save it as is and make it available to whoever needs it. So that is the idea behind all that. Now, just a couple tips. If you find yourself changing and editing the Word document every single month, try and find a way to make it dynamic within Excel, like I did. I don't want to have to put Jet Corp USA. When I want to run it for Jet Corp UK, I have to open up that Excel file and change it. It was over or under by this amount, right? Those are things that I know I'd have to change every single one, so try and make it dynamic within the Excel file. If it's just a one-off, like, oh, I misspelled this one word this one time, or I just don't need this chart this time, go ahead and just delete it from the Word document itself, right? So constant changes, do it in the template in Excel. If it's just a one-off, let's remove this thing from this one report. We don't need it. Do it within the Word document. Okay. So as we wrap up here, I want to leave you just with some best practices. Okay. The best advice that I think I can provide to you is to think about what you want before you start. Right, we saw it isn't difficult to save my work and then go back and make changes and then jump back into the document, but planning ahead can really reduce that switching. It can also make your reports really dynamic as you start thinking about it. So this lends itself to the idea of maybe creating a separate sheet for those single cell references like I did that second iteration, where I said, here's the company name, different sizes, here's this dynamic if statement to choose over or under. Right? And just kind of keep an idea of what you're trying to say in your story. Right? So another suggestion that I have, and we talked about, was clear naming conventions. Company name 1, company name 2, not very clear. But company name large, company name small, company bold, italic, really have a way of making it easier to understand what you're talking about. And while it is possible in Excel to go in and start deleting name ranges, right? I can go into the name manager and start deleting names. Don't do that, right? You may have a lot of them, and we try and avoid having too many name ranges in JET just in general, but what can happen if you start deleting them, you could orphan references in that Word document. And then what's going to happen is it's not going to create an error, it's just going to leave a space. So if I deleted that over-under name range, well, when I put that tag in there, it's just going to leave it blank. The company was for this time. Was it over, under? I don't know. Okay? So just simply make sure you don't delete any of them because you might orphan things. And lastly, the last thing I always do, test your output. As we saw in my example, not everything is always pulled in correctly the way we want it to. Sometimes the sizing is wrong. Sometimes things are kind of off to the right or left. Maybe we don't want it to. So it's an iterative process that first time. And I would recommend testing throughout the process. Right? Once everything is exactly as you needed, guess what? Future runs, I open up the Excel file, I run the report, I hit generate Word document, and that's it. I then spent 30 seconds creating that new document, whereas before I would have to copy and paste and do all this other stuff. So again, trying to save you time in your life, put a little bit of work up front, make your life so much easier on a monthly basis or whatever you need. So that brings us to the end of today. I'll keep the chat open or the meeting open for just a few minutes. So if you want to have any questions, feel free to type them in there and I'll record the answers to those in the follow-up. And thank you for joining me and have a great day if you'd like to. During our session, we had some great questions come up, and I wanted to address those for you in this follow-up video. The very first question was, is this available in JET Basics? The quick answer is no. JET Basics is a quick, free, introductory tool that will allow you very limited access to tools. If you want to have access to all of the tools in JET Reports, you do need to upgrade to the paid version of JET Reports beyond JET Basics. The second question is, can you have multiple Word documents saved with one Excel file? That's a great question and something that, might be a great suggestion for future functionality, but currently it is a one document to one report or one Excel file. Now there's two ways you can get around doing that. One, for each new Word template that you need, you save a different version of the Excel file. So I might have version 1 that is for US based, and version 2 that is European based, and version 3 that is South America based, right? So I have 3 different reports and I need to set up the templates different ways so each one of those is maintained within each one of those individual reports. The other thing you could do is use one report but have it create one big Word document that contains all the reports that you want or all the versions of it, and then once you generate it, you have to go into a Word and separate those out. So 2 different ways to kind of tackle that, but currently it is a one-to-one relationship, one report, one Word template. Now the last one was really interesting as well. Can you insert forced page breaks, and can you change the page layout for different pages? So let's go ahead and actually see this in action, because I thought this was a really interesting question. I wanted to show you how this could be accomplished, because yes, the answer to both of those is yes, it can. So I just reopened up our company overview here. I actually started from scratch so we could just demonstrate this quick and easy. I'm going to go ahead and configure this. And I only have one name range in here for right now. We'll grab our profitability and we don't need our chart. So let's go ahead and edit our template. What I'm going to use is that profitability indicator that we saw in the session, and I'm going to show you what it would look like. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a range. Here's our profitability. In fact, I can add, this is our profitability indicators, right? Then, just like in Excel, I can insert a page break right after that. So if I wanted to, I can reinsert. I'll insert that profitability again, but this time I want this second page to be horizontal. And I could add other stuff in here. This is our profitability again. I'll go ahead and highlight those things, and I'll go into layout. Now, if I click this little button, I have more options in my page setup than I normally do. And what I can do is say, well, I want landscape, but only the selected text. And I want the whole document. I want just this area set. So I hit OK. And now we can see in a preview, I've got a vertical page and a horizontal page. I'll go ahead and save that. And just to prove that it does indeed work, let me save that and generate a Word document. And we will see both the page break and that vertical and horizontal output in our final document. So let's go ahead and open that file and make sure everything looks good. Here we are. Here's our profitability indicators. I said put this in here and then do a page break. It certainly did that, and here we are with our horizontal version. So most of that same functionality that you have in Word, you still have access to. You just have the ability to insert those name ranges and charts into the document via JET. So that hopefully answers everyone's questions out there. They were some great follow-up questions. Thank you again for joining us, and get out there and start making some Word documents.